Welcome to the Phoenix Suns Solar Panel Podcast here on YouTube. If you are watching us live, we do appreciate you. My name is Tim Tompkins. Joining us, Mr. Dave King.
Hey there, hey there, hey there.
And of course, the show would not be the show without the infamous Greg Esposito.
Ahoy, hoy.
We really are the Espo show. We're like this Espo solar
come
panel
on.
or something.
You guys, Dave, at least you were important to this. Yeah,
we could rename it like Espo and Company.
You could, and we'd
Espo
probably get
and
more
Company.
listeners and viewers. But
We probably
I prefer
would.
the Espo show. But we can go Espo and Company if you guys want some credit. So
Yeah, it's like when you have one of those bands where it's the name of the singer and whatever else. Like
Yeah.
Brian Fallon.
Hey, you know
and
the band, you
Rose.
know the lead singer is getting full of themselves when they insist on their name being put in separately from the rest of the band after they got popular. That's cool.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine.
Hey,
with it.
man,
By the way,
Tweet
shout
us
out to
out
Pat.
so people know where we are.
By the way, shout out to Patrick Breen, one of our listeners. Met him last weekend, and just wanted to give him a shout out. So.
Oh, wow, that's great. Good plug on the show. Way to move forward, Greg. So taking a look at the West right now, we're recording this on Saturday morning, January 4th. The Suns are now 14-21, sitting 10th in the West. They're half a game back from the 8th seed. They won 3 of their last 4 games. Not really in convincing fashion, but regardless, W's are W's, right? That was a problem for the Suns earlier in the season, not being able to close out wins. So beating the Kings 112-100, beating the Blazers 122-116, falling to the Lakers 107-117, and finally beating the Knicks on Friday night 120-112. Looking at the next 6 games, or next 5 games, 6 games for the Phoenix Suns, they have the Grizzlies, the Kings, the Magic, the Hornets, the Hawks, and the Knicks. Great schedule.
This decides it. I mean, I know it's early, but I think this stretch decides whether they remain truly in contention or not for the playoffs.
Well, I think what's interesting, so the 2 teams, because the Suns are, like I said, they're sitting 10th in the West right now. The 2 teams that are above them, and of course there's a whole lot of teams kind of with about the same record, but regardless, the 2 teams above them, you have the Spurs and the Blazers. The next 5 games for the Spurs, 2 games against the Bucks. They play the Celtics, Toronto, and Miami being the second best team in the East right now. The Blazers have Miami, Toronto, Minnesota, Milwaukee, and Charlotte. So the Suns' schedule, in comparison to the 2 teams above them, looking pretty good over the next few games.
Yeah, the Suns. It's funny. I don't think this stretch decides whether the Suns are going to be contenders for a playoff spot or not. It's certainly a helpful stretch, and if the Suns don't do well in this stretch, then that's probably going to make the rest of the season harder. That's for sure. But as we see, every 2 weeks we have a different opinion. Seems to be on this show on whether the Suns are even capable of fighting for a playoff spot. So. Things change, and what's great is that after the Suns had, I think out of that 8-game losing streak, the Suns had at least 3 games that could have gone either way. In the final minutes, nice that the last few games, someone else has melted down, especially Friday night against the Knicks. It was nice seeing some other team melt down, and the Suns not. Things even out. Things even out like that. The Suns are an average team, so they got a below average record, so they're going to come back to average. Whether average gets them in the playoffs or not this year is, that remains to be seen. But as Tim says, things will probably change a little bit in the next couple of weeks because the Suns will have more wins than their immediate teams above them. I agree. And plus the Suns are playing the other teams that are around them. So if the Suns do collect some more wins like Sunday night against Memphis, then they'll even create that separation as well.
Look, the Suns aren't even an average team. They have to take care of these next 6 games just to even be close.
Yes, we know how
to
much
average.
you hate the Suns.
I
Greg.
don't hate the Suns. I'm just there's a
Been a bit of
reality
a Suns
to this.
hater.
You're a Suns hater.
Been
Listen,
a Suns hater.
No,
You're
the
gonna take
problem
the
problem right now is there are so many people confusing the fact that they're within striking distance of the 8th seed and being good. When you are 14-21, you are not a good team.
Whoa.
You are just not.
Greg, I didn't
You're
say
better
they were
than
good.
I'm not talking to you,
And I
Dave.
didn't
I'm
say they were
talking.
even. average right now. I just said over on the season they're an average team. So when you're below average, you're gonna come back to the middle watermark. That's all I'm saying.
Dave, you, me, and Tim, I think, are in the same ballpark. I'm talking to some of Sun's Twitter out there that thinks that somehow this is a really good team because they're still holding on to the 7-4.
Complain
right?
and bitch and moan, and they're saying, "Lighten up, pal."
Look,
that's what they're saying.
This team is significantly better than last year. To put it in perspective, right?
Chief.
They could lose the next 30 games and still have the same record that they had last year at that
they're
point.
Pretty good, Greg?
No, it does not mean they're pretty good.
That analogy?
When you start
if they have
from
to
the
go on a
basement,
30-game losing streak to be as bad as last year,
they're better
dude,
than they were.
understand
They're
your
not
analogies.
pretty good. Listen, that does not make them pretty good.
To
That
have
makes
to
them
go on a
better than the
30-game
crap that they
losing streak
were.
To be as bad as last year, and you say that doesn't make them better?
I didn't say it doesn't make them better. It makes them much better. That's the whole point. It doesn't make them good, though. This team still has a long way to go to be a good team. They're better than they were. They're not a good team yet. When you're 14-21, that does not make you a good team. Just because the rest of the back half of the Western Conference is that bad that you're within a half a game of the 8th seed does not make you good. It just means the rest of the competition is played like crap this year. This team has a long way to go to be good.
My eyes are rolling to the ceiling. I never said they were a good team.
I didn't say you did. I'm saying other people are, and they're not. They're just not a good team yet.
Okay, so
wow. So why are we even on this weekly podcast talking about a team that sucks so bad, Greg?
Hey, we spent 2.5 years talking about the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah, so
this is much nicer than it is.
Why don't we appreciate the fact?
I do.
Why so glum, chum?
I'm not glum. I'm simply
low glum.
No, I'm simply being realistic. And
you sound really glum.
Pretty glum.
Hey, you guys can keep drinking the Kool-Aid, think this is going to be a 40-plus win team.
No, I'm actually just choosing not to hate life.
I don't hate life.
That's not drinking Kool-Aid.
I just simply look at it and go, let's be realistic about it.
Diarrhea.
I look at this and go, we have changed our expectations so damn much in the last decade that now we look at 14-21 and want to celebrate it.
Just because we stopped drinking the diarrhea doesn't mean we're drinking Kool-Aid instead. How about we're just not drinking?
Hey, look, Devin Booker has played amazing. He's all-star caliber. Kelly Oubre is impressed. This team has a point guard in Ricky Rubio when he's not injured. This is a better team than they were. I'm just saying this is the first step, and they've got a long way to go.
And I agree that they have a long way to go, but why be so pissy about it?
I'm not pissy about it. I'm just
a little
simply
pissy
saying,
about it. A little pissy.
Right.
So pissy.
Man, you guys are dicks. Go ahead.
We're the dicks. We're calling you out saying you're pissy?
Hey, go ahead. All right, let's continue. Next topic.
Stop looking at me. Look at something else. I don't know where we hear that every day.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
That's why people listen to this show, because what other show are you going to get two hosts that are ready to slap each other through the camera? Not many. Not many.
So,
Dave, I still hate you.
All right.
What? I'm just gonna drop the mic in the Kelly Oubre special way by headbutting it.
So that's where we're at.
Poor Lindsey Smith. Friday night after the Suns game against the Knicks, she asked Kelly Oubre at the end of the interview to show us his head bob that got him a technical, and he head bobbed right into the microphone. She felt so bad. She was like so embarrassed. She was sweating and everything, and he's just like, no, it's cool. He's got a bigger swing on the head than she expected him to have. I love Kelly Oubre, by the way. I just want to take a second to talk about. We talk about Devin Booker all the time because he's the best player on the team. Absolutely, he deserves to be talked about all the time. And I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later, maybe on his All-Star candidacy. Yes, we are. So I won't go into that, but let me go into Kelly Oubre a little bit. That dude has been balling out. I mean, Greg, I think you gave a little bit of a shout out by saying he's impressed. I mean, that sounds like, talking about a rookie. I think he's more than impressed. I think he's been incredible. And I think it was Matt Peterson who tweeted on Friday night that he's made over 60% of his shots in the last couple of weeks, and almost 60% of his threes. It's just incredible. The dude makes big shots. The dude has made big shots all year, and he's making more of them right now. He is on one heck of a run, and we just got to appreciate it while it's happening, instead of talk about the gloom and doom, and maybe just appreciate the fact that he's got 4 straight 20-point games. He had a season high 15 rebounds in one of them. He's had 5 assists in one. He's had 3 steals in 3 out of the last 4 games. The dude is balling out, and I really appreciate having him on the team. And when the Suns are kind of slogging through a malaise that, Ricky Rubio's not the most emotive guy. Devin Booker isn't the most rally the guys emotive out there, although he's about the most intense guy the Suns have. He's intense in his own way. Aron Baynes is intense in his own way, but he doesn't rally people. And Kelly Oubre rallies the crowd. The crowd can't wait for the next Kelly Oubre play, and I think it's just so fun to watch. And then the crowd has such a good time watching Kelly Oubre play. I'm really excited to have him on the team. So let's give a huge shout out to Kelly Oubre as the spirit animal of this team before Greg shits all over him.
No, his dunks, he had that poster dunk a couple nights ago. He had a great one against the Knicks on Friday night. Those things are what tend to energize this team in second halves when they're struggling. He's very fun to watch. He's hitting big threes as well right now, which major props. The problem right now is just the consistency. No, I think he's playing at a borderline all-star level. But Friday night against the Knicks, he starts 0 for 9. The Suns have a rough start in the first half. Just a little consistency really helps out. Would really help out those first half slow starts that this team.
Kelly didn't start 0 for 9.
Go back and look. I'm pretty sure Kelly started 0 for 9 in the first half, and then had a huge second half with his shooting.
Okay, I'll look.
So all-star voting, not looking good for Devin Booker right now. The guard's out in the West. Alex Caruso has more all-star votes than Devin Booker, and I just, I don't watch the All-Star game. I think the All-Star game is trash. I've thought it's trash for a very long time. There's a couple of fun events, All-Star weekend, that the 3-point shooting contest, the skills contest is kind of fun. I think USA versus the world in terms of the first 2-year players is kind of a fun match, but the All-Star game's kind of trash. So I don't really care, but at the same time, it's a problem.
Well, yeah, especially when the Popeyes chicken sandwich has more votes than Devin Booker in the All-Star game. This is a ridiculous popularity contest. And when you see those returns, you're like, what the hell?
I just put out an article this morning on brightsideofthesun.com. That's brightsideofthesun.com. I put out an article to talk about this. This is just to name the 10 starters, 5 in the West and 5 in the East. It's 1/3 fan voting, which is the only voting we've seen so far, which Devin Booker has always done poorly in. Last year he came in 9th or 10th, and this year he's 1 spot higher as far as overall fan voting, because the Suns are not on national TV. They're not in the playoffs. Nobody knows what Devin Booker even looks like outside of Phoenix. It's okay. People know what Alex Caruso looks like because he's bald, and he looks like you just picked him up in a 7-Eleven and said, "Hey, dude, you want to?" It looks like Tim played pickup with him Friday night, and then he suddenly found himself in a dream in a Lakers uniform. Look, it's all right. It's okay. Devin Booker is seen higher, better by media and by players. But even all that only factors into starters. Then it's just exclusively coaches picking the reserves. And the first time you make an all-star game, you're going to be a reserve unless you're Luka Doncic, who has worldwide support and love, and he cures cancer and all that. So, or no, it's epilepsy. I think he cures now. And so I think, it's just one of those things. Devin's got to stair-step his way in. He might have to be in this year. He might be named as the 3rd guard reserve, 5th overall behind Westbrook and Damian Lillard, after Harden and Luka Doncic are the starting guards. Look, this fan voting, don't worry about it. They always do stupid things. Players do stupid things when they do their votes. Media does stupid things when they do their votes. The local broadcast guys are always voting for their local guys. So It's just a little funky, but this is just the 10 starters. There are 14 other players that are named just by coaches. Now, the coaches voting is also it's unique as well, because coaches are going to vote in guys that they're most afraid of. The guys they have to do the most game planning against. They're not allowed to vote for their own players, so they're going to vote for other players that aren't already named starters and are the most scary to play against. Coaches, we'll see what they think of Devin Booker. He hasn't really been in the running like this before, so we'll see if the coaches feel the same way players do about Devin Booker, because the players really like him and they really think he deserves to be there.
I think it's time to take the third of the fan vote away. Like, how ridiculous is it? Does anybody really believe that Alex Caruso is better than Devin Booker? Legitimately? Like, no, nobody actually believes
a single person on the planet.
Like no, nobody does except Lakers fans, maybe.
No, the Lakers fans don't think that. His mom, his girlfriend. That's it.
Even his girlfriend, she looks at that hair and goes, "Nah, he's not better than Devin Booker. He's got money, but he doesn't look like Devin."
Is with him is because of the other Lakers and the fact that he's a Laker. Certainly not because of his hair.
The paycheck, maybe too, but she's looking at Devin Booker and going, "That's even a better looking dude. I can't even think that Alex is better than him." By the way, I was wrong on the Kelly Oubre stat.
You were 100% wrong.
It was 0 for 9 for the Suns on three-point shooting in the first half. So I apologize. I misread the stat. So I apologize.
That is like totally not the same stat. That's like saying, DeAndre Ayton had a three-pointer.
That's the identity politics of NBA stats.
Hey, I apologize. Yeah, the difference is I'm apologizing for being wrong.
But people have already tuned out because they think Kelly Oubre sucks now.
Nobody's tuned out. There's more people watching now than when I said it.
Oubre was 4 for 8 in the first half with 9 points.
So
he had a steal, he had an assist, he had a rebound. It wasn't as good as his second half for sure. He had 20 points in the second half, but he was not 0 for 9.
I was wrong. Sad, they were 0 for 9 from 3.
So let's solidify the 0 for 9 from 3. The 0 for 9 for 3 is sad because they didn't make a 3 in the first half. And they were down by 10 to the Knicks at halftime. And you knew it was going to turn around, but still, 0 for 9, the worst part about the 0 for 9 was the 9 attempts, not the 0 for. The 9 attempts was terrible because an average team should average 30+. The Suns average 30+ attempts a game. I know that's only 5-6 short of an average, but still, let's make sure the Suns don't forget how to be a really good NBA, at least profile team, which they were in the first 2 months of the season. They were top 10 in 3-point attempts per game. They were, for a long time, they were toward the top in 3-pointers made per game. And that is a much better looking team and much more likely to win when you're trying to score 3 points instead of 2. Then all of a sudden in the past few weeks, they stopped making threes. Then even Devin Booker stopped trying them. And I'm glad in the second half they got up 19 threes in the second half and made 10 of them. So I really think that was nice to see because the Suns need to still be a good 3-point shooting threat.
Well, and apparently they're listening to our friend Eddie Johnson. I love EJ, but he's been on a rant about the analytics side of things and hating on threes. So maybe they're listening to him. The crazy thing about this lately with Devin Booker in the last 5 games, he's averaging 33.8 points a game, and he's only shooting 22% from 3-point. Like that's crazy. And I think that's an indicator of why they only shot 9. He's not shooting that many threes. He's only attempting 3.5 a game now. So I think that's part of it too.
Wasn't last year wasn't he attempting like 6 or 7? I don't have the
stats
right.
He averaged 6.5 last year and almost 7.5 the year before. And when he made 38% of them 2 years ago, shooting 7.5. And then last year he only made 32% shooting 6.5. He's still at 36%. He was over 40% for a long time. He's just going through a slump. He's deciding he's going to take himself out of the slump by not shooting them as much. And that's his prerogative. He's still scoring over 30 points a game. But I thought it was funny halfway through the game last night. It occurred to me that the Suns have always admired the Spurs And now they're becoming the Spurs with DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge taking only 2-pointers and eschewing the threes. I think they're becoming the wrong version of the Spurs, and they need to go back to being a good basketball team.
But how impressive is it that Devin Booker can average almost 34 points a game in a 5-game stretch, only shooting 22% from three?
I think I saw somebody put on Twitter, Devin De Booker. So he's becoming the DeMar DeRozan kind of guy. We need him back to being Devin
also,
Booker.
Don't forget, Kobe didn't take a ton of threes. He had a really, really strong mid-range game. So this is funny, though. Manny C in the YouTube chat says that he has a Deandre Ayton bobblehead for sale. It won't stay up on his desk because it's too soft.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
let's talk about DeAndre Ayton for a minute. Unless we're going to talk about him later.
We are going to talk about him later.
Let's talk about him later.
Sure. All right. So I do want to take a moment to thank a listener, Justin Sexton, for supporting the Sun Solar Panel podcast. So if you're watching right now on YouTube, listening on the podcast,
hey,
if you like,
Justin.
you do get some value out of the show and you want to become a monthly donor, even if that's just $1, we really do appreciate it. But there's a $1, a $5, and a $10 option. You do the $10 option, I'll personally send you some Sun swag. So just look in the show notes below, look in the YouTube chat, whatever the case might be, and you can just hit that support the show button.
Yeah, maybe it'll help make my mood better. Apparently, I'm a little pissy today, so.
Well, you were, in all fairness, you were pretty pissy last night, too. We told you, though.
Screw you guys, all right?
Okay, so stat of the week. And this one, because we're going to talk about Ayton, I think is super interesting. Ayton right now leads the NBA out of 299 qualified players and field goal percentage allowed at 29.8%. I know that's worded a little bit funny, but essentially he's holding opponents to a really, really, really low field goal percentage. The criteria was 10-plus field goals defended per game. For shots within 6 feet of the rim, he's limiting opponents to 43.5%, which is fourth in the league, and that is a minimum of 5.5 field goals defended a game.
Yeah, no, he actually, what I've seen so far, of course, he's only played like 6 games this year. But what I've seen so far is that he is defending a lot better at the rim. He's using his verticality a lot better. He is not fouling so Aron Baynes has a different way of playing defense, and it's effective in its own way. DeAndre Ayton does it without fouling. He's actually been very effective, causing a lot of guys stopping short on their drives to the rim. He's not perfect, and he's still going to make some changes. But what I thought was really interesting is after the game on Friday night, Ayton talked about how excited he was to play next to Aron Baynes in the lineup, because Baynes talks constantly and puts him in the right spots. He says whenever he loses focus on where he's supposed to be, Baynes is always right there to tell him where he's supposed to be. And that's super. It's really, really helpful. And I think in that respect, this is good for Ayton, because when usually for the rest of the season, when Ayton's been on the floor, Baynes has not. And so it's really good to have somebody directing traffic and telling him where to be, because as a young guy, the dude is just 21 and he's only in his second year in the NBA, and he played on the league worst defense a year ago around him. So he doesn't have a lot of experience on how to play defense well. It's good to see Aron Baynes out there helping him do that. So I thought that was interesting. DeAndre Ayton is playing more physical. So let's talk about him for a minute. Not only on the defensive end, he's also gotten double-digit rebounds in every game and a lot of good rebounds in traffic. So he's not afraid to bang down there and to box out and things like that. And on offense, he actually did bang into a couple of guys trying to get his shot for the first time this season. So I think he's just growing into it. And I think that there's going to be a day that DeAndre Ayton has an epiphany. And one of these times he's going to drive through a guy, get to the basket, draw a foul, and he's going to realize it doesn't hurt. And realize, like Devin Booker figured out how to get fouled constantly and not be injured, not be hurt all the time. DeAndre Ayton can figure that out. One of these days he is going to figure that out, and then all of a sudden his game is going to be different. Until he figures that out, he's going to be the same guy. But I will say the last couple of games, he has not just openly taken a bunch of mid-range shots. He's getting lower. He's sealing lower closer to the basket. He's driving. He's using his speed and motion. So he's become more interesting on offense in the past couple of games than he did his first couple of games. This is the first stretch where he's played more than one game in a row this year. So let's give him time to adjust. But he looked good in the second half of the last 3 games.
How about his passing too? He had a couple plays in Friday night's game. One, he drove the lane, looked like he was going to do what you were saying. He was going to try to take the contact and slam it home, but realized he was likely going to get a charge. Kicked it to the corner for a beautiful shot, and then there was a play late in the fourth against the Knicks where I think it was actually Baynes got the block. Deandre picked it up a little behind half court and whipped it down the court for an easy layup. Like, he's got amazing court vision with that passing. And while it doesn't feel like he's quite, and the team hasn't quite figured out how he fits in this offense, how he will get that rhythm offensively, he's doing these little things that are helping. Your point, Dave, the rebounding, this passing, even his defense, like you were saying, has been somewhat improved. He's doing the little things. I think he's going to find this rhythm, and I'm waiting. I think we're going to have that breakout game where all of a sudden everything clicks offensively, and it all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, there's the Deandre Ayton everybody's been waiting for in terms of point production.
Well, and we've been commiserating a little bit with Greg Wissinger, who works on the Kings blog, and about everyone just lamenting that the Suns didn't take and the Kings didn't take Luka Doncic, and they took these big men instead. Part of it is Luka Doncic has turned into an MVP player, absolutely, and everyone should have seen it ahead of time, for sure. But part of it also is that Ayton and Bagley have not hardly played it all this year, and maybe we should watch a few games of those guys before we say they're complete busts, before we say it was the worst possible thing you could have done. Absolutely,
let's be honest,
Luka got better than he was supposed to be.
If the Suns had fallen to 2 and passed on Luka to take Bagley.
No, don't say the Kings are worse.
I feel for those fans at least. At least Ayton was in.
I feel for the Suns fans, and I feel for those fans for sure.
But at least there was a debate.
It wasn't such a slam dunk back then because the league didn't know. There's always players who outplay their draft projection even more than their draft projection.
I agree.
And people thought Doncic would be good, but even Doncic fans did not think he'd be pushing on a 30-point triple-double average in his second.
No, nobody thought that, but there was a debate between Ayton and Doncic for one. Nobody said, hey, how about that Marvin Bagley guy? We should probably take him. No, he wasn't even in the discussion. So to take him at number 2, this very much could be like that 84 draft where you get a Hakeem. Now, I'm not saying Ayton will be Hakeem, but a really good player at 1, total disappointment at 2, all-time great at 3. Like that it very much could play out like that.
Was it Bowie?
It was Bowie, which was injuries, but very much could play that way.
The Kevin Durant draft.
Yeah.
Kind of the same.
Yeah, that was injuries too, though. Greg Oden would have been really, really good.
So something that we were waiting for, I don't know how many people were waiting for it. I know we talked about on the show, is something that I personally actually wanted to see myself, because watching DeAndre Ayton's game, and I know that Greg has been disappointed with me and also disagreed with me at times about this, but I've always thought that DeAndre Ayton plays a bit more like a power forward than he does like a center, especially once he finally starts taking some threes, and I think it's about time. Hopefully he will. So Monty Williams against the Knicks, there was very little Dario, and there was Aron Baynes and DeAndre Ayton in that starting lineup. And I do have a quote from Ayton when he was asked about it. I believe it was Kellen Olson that asked him. He said, "It's about time. I've been asking them since there was a little rumor, a little tweet saying I'm about to play the 4. So I've been wanting to play the 4, been wanting to guard out on the perimeter. Remember at the U of A, he did play the 4 a lot of the time. So I don't see why it's this Ayton can only play the 5 thing. But the results, I thought, were pretty damn good out there on the court."
Well, and he was good at guarding.
Because you only watched the second half, Tim. It's because you only watched the second half. The first half was just disaster because they hadn't even had practice time together as a tandem, Ayton and Baynes. And so they didn't really know what parts of the floor Baynes had a better idea than Ayton did, but they didn't really know where they were supposed to be. They got switched out a couple of times.
Sure.
They got confused a couple of times.
What was
the result? Was bad in the first half. It was bad in the first half.
No. Not what the play was. What was the result of the game?
Yeah, I know. In the second half, they got a little bit better. I'm just saying
they beat a bad Knicks team.
You didn't have to mix the disappointment with the joy like we did. That's all. Because you watched the second half of the game.
It's interesting though. It does. Obviously, it takes a little time for a guy that's switching position to. So hopefully, the second half is more of a bellwether for what if they continue with this. It looks like.
Well, I don't know. Here's what Monty said after the game, because he didn't tell us. This was interesting. So in pregame, we get to talk to the coach for about 5-10 minutes as a group before the game. And this is before starting lineups come out. I actually asked Monty Williams, I said, is Ayton going to be moving back into the starting lineup anytime soon? He said, stay tuned. I can't answer that yet. He was going to give us the lineup in a half hour, but no, I can't answer that. And then about 5 minutes later, I asked, it looks like on Wednesday, for the first time ever, you played Deandre Ayton and Aron Baynes next to each other in the same lineup. What did you think of that? And then he kind of smiled and he goes, well, I kind of liked it. I mean, there's good and there's bad. There's definitely an opportunity there for, some good things, and I want to see more of it. And then he looked pointedly at me and he said, is that the answer you were looking for? And I didn't quite know what he meant. But then half an hour later, I did know what he meant. And so, yes, he was pretending the lineup change. Then after the game, we asked him about that because nobody was able to talk to him since finding out this was happening. And this is how he described it. He said they've been struggling with their lineups recently. Obviously, as everyone watching this podcast knows, the Suns got down by 36 to the Lakers. They got down by 19 to the Blazers last two games with that starting lineup that had been so effective all year. And it was frustrating everybody. And Monty was wondering what to do. And then he got on the phone with James Jones. And James Jones actually talked to him a lot about what DeAndre Ayton could do as a four, and how they ought to think about that and think about moving DeAndre Ayton into the four-man next to Baynes. Now, I said Ayton would be more the center and Baynes would be more the four, because Baynes is the stretch guy where he can actually take the threes offensively. And then Ayton said after the game that that's exactly it. Offensively, Ayton's the 5 and Baynes is the 4, and defensively it's the other way around. So I thought that was interesting because Ayton can guard the perimeter a little bit more, guard guys with movement a little bit more. So that's an interesting pairing, but it was James Jones who planted the seed with Monty Williams after the last two awful starts for the Suns. And then Monty Williams just came in literally on Friday morning, day of the game, and said to his assistant coaches, what do you guys think? And they all said, yes, let's go for it. And so all the Suns had was one shoot-around, one walk-through practice, because you can't have contact the day of a game. That's just a part of the CBA. So they had one walk-through, and that's it before they started these guys in an NBA game against an NBA team. And, of course, it looked bad in the first half because no one knew where they were supposed to be. But in the second half, they did get better, to Tim's point, and they ended up winning the game. And I tell you what, the pairing of Ayton and Baynes in that second half did tilt the scales a lot on the rebounding discrepancy that had been there in the first half. The Knicks are one of the best rebounding teams in the league. They're physical. They try to win by rebounding. They can't do anything else very well. And the Suns were able to actually negate that in the second half too. So I thought that was interesting how it came about. It was James Jones' idea. Monty thought about it overnight. He presented it to his coaching staff. They agreed, and now they're trying it. Whether they're going to keep doing that forever will depend on how well this pairing works in reality, because Monty's team is also very good at looking at the stats and seeing what really works. There's a reason Mikal Bridges has been playing more lately, and everybody's been waiting for it, and it's because Mikal's numbers are so good and the stats back it up, and while he doesn't look flashy out there, he's getting more minutes because Monty's team looks at these numbers and they look at you have to have a trend. You can't go off one game. You can't go off 5-minute stretch. You can't go off to a 20-minute stretch. You've got to look at a trend and play guys enough to be able to see how they do in lineups. And so, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of Ayton and Baynes together, at least 10, 15 minutes a game for a while until it flames out. And if it doesn't flame out, we'll see it all year.
So you don't think this was just a particular matchup since the Knicks have pretty good big men and obviously the rebounding. This is a long term.
I think Wednesday against the Lakers, it was a matchup thing for sure, because Anthony Davis being so damn tall and then JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard being right next to him the whole game. Absolutely, Wednesday was a matchup thing, and then they probably just didn't hate it. And then Friday, no, everyone on the Knicks was 6'9" or under. So it wasn't a matchup thing.
Good rebounding, though, as you said. So
that was part of the reason to break that seal, yes. Part of the reason to break the seal was the rebounding for sure. But now that they've done it, and now that Ayton is excited about it, and Baynes doesn't hate it either, and the team likes it, because now Devin Booker has two big guys to oh, by the way, let's give Ayton some shout out on throwing better screens this year. He's been standing in on screens a lot better this year than he did last year. And now Devin Booker has two guys to run off his defender when he's trying to score, and Booker's been doing pretty well with that. And Kelly Oubre is excited about it too, because now everyone's sinking down to the rim area, and so there's a lot more open threes, and Kelly's been feeling good. So I think we're gonna see it.
So you bring up two factors here. If they stick with the Baynes and Ayton two-headed monster there, power forward and center, and then Mikal Bridges is getting more minutes. Two things. Who's your backup center? That's a big question. And then does this mean that Dario is pretty much out? We've seen his minutes dwindle. Tim, I'm sorry if this was where you're going next, but you've seen his minutes dwindle. It makes me wonder, are we getting closer to some kind of move to potentially exodus of you look at Tyler Johnson's massive contract, you look at Dario not playing a lot of minutes. Is there an opportunity here to now make a move because you are having guys fall out of the rotation who may have some appeal elsewhere?
Yeah, it's actually, I'm sorry, I know you asked Tim, but let me throw something out there. Monty talked about this after the game too. He was asked about Dario not playing as much, and Monty said, it hurts. I feel bad for these guys, because there are guys who are now not in the rotation or not getting as many minutes who need these minutes because of their careers, because they're going to have long careers ahead of them. And whatever I do, Monty Williams, whatever I do with them with their playing time could affect their contracts and their years in the league. And I feel bad about it, but I have to go with what's best for the team right now. And so he recognizes, yes, I think what he's doing is he's admitting Dario's going to get fewer minutes. Frank's going to get fewer minutes. I don't know why Sheck is getting more minutes over Dario. That could be a matchup thing. But definitely the days of Dario and Frank, the Suns lost 16 out of 20 when Dario and Frank were the primary big men. It's too bad they're not getting a chance to be the two of the four big men with Ayton and Baynes, but we'll see how that goes. Frank has been out because of a knee injury, so that's not all his doing, but if you count up the minutes, I mean, there's really not much left to go around.
I think the Frank too, before the knee injury, his minutes were definitely dwindling. To Greg's point, it has been 7 games since Dario has logged more than 22 minutes. Coming in and playing 4 minutes too versus the Knicks, and matchup or not is a little bit surprising. And I do agree with Espo that it seems to be a little bit of the writing on the wall when you look at the Tyler Johnson expiring deal, when you look at Dario's it's a team option for Dario next year. Is that correct?
No, Dario's a restricted free agent.
Frank
is a team option.
Okay, so between those 3 players, you're looking at about $30 million in expiring money.
Yeah, and you throw in a sweetener or two, and all of a sudden you've got enough to make some kind of move. I guess it just depends on what you want to do. I see Iverson vlogs in the chat saying Gallo here. I've heard the Gallo rumor, and I don't quite understand why OKC, who is solidly in the playoffs, why would they give up on him?
Because they might. It's not giving up. They might not want to re-sign him. So if you're a team that knows that you don't want to re-sign a guy going into the next off season, that's when you trade him.
I guess,
regardless of your playoff push or not.
Yeah, I guess. So you probably have to include a first-round pick because that seems to be what Sam Presti covets the most over there
Sure.
in OKC.
Lottery protected first-round pick and Tyler Johnson.
Yeah, and
I think Gallo would be fun to have as a better version of Frank. And possibly Dario's a little bit better rebounder than Gallo. I feel bad for Dario because Dario has played well. He's just not a star. He's certainly not a productive star, but he does a lot of little things that help you win. He just needs better players around him for the team to win. And he's not going to win games for you by himself. But Dario has had a really good season. It's just under the radar because he doesn't post eye-popping numbers.
Just to bring it back to the trades really quickly, thinking about this, right? There's a clear hole at power forward. Maybe not, depending on how much time Deandre Ayton gets there. But there's two players that there's a lot of rumors going around about right now. One being Kevin Love, the other one being Gallo. Right. So Kevin Love is owed a lot of money over the next 3.5 seasons. Gallo is. This is the last year of his contract. So if the Suns trade for him, they're trading for him under the assumption that the reason why we're going to trade for you is because we can get you into our culture and we have a better chance of you re-signing, and we're going to offer you another contract after, right?
Maybe, or they're just that desperate to get into the playoffs.
True.
It could be a rental.
Generally speaking, teams are trading for players of that caliber, though.
Well, they get the bird rights.
So they want they want the bird rights. They want a chance to re-sign this guy. They want to have a look at him, right? Mm-hmm. But with Kevin Love, and I'm a bigger Kevin Love stan than you guys are. Keep in mind he is playing right now in Cleveland with a couple of point guards that will not pass him the ball, and I think that does matter. Kevin Love, he's owed more money, but it's a guarantee of keeping him for longer.
Yeah,
it's not a guarantee.
Want to keep Kevin Love. Oh God. The more I think about it, I mean, he would be fun to watch. He would not be fun to watch next year. He'd be fun to watch this year.
He is not a bad player, and it's surprising to me how much his stock has fallen just because he's been in a Cleveland hellhole with seriously point guards that will not pass him the ball. It's even comical how much they won't pass him the ball.
I don't think that's why his stock's fallen, though. I think it's the injuries and the big question mark and the fact that he's got that massive salary, which is fine. Like, I agree. I think he's a good player. I just think the perception on him has shifted so much because of those two factors that he's been injury prone, and the Cavs gave him a Godfather offer because they thought he'd be the star they needed to carry them after LeBron, and they forgot, we need to put other people around him as well.
Yeah, I did a quick comparison here between Gallinari, Frank, Dario, and Kevin Love. Gallinari is the worst rebounder of the four on a per 36 basis because their minutes have not been exactly the same this year. Gallinari's getting 30 minutes a game. Frank's only getting 22. Kevin Love's getting 30, and Dario's getting 26. So I did it on per 36 basis. It's not that disparate on their minutes that this won't work. It will work. So Gallinari is the best scorer, obviously. He's got the best 3-point shot, and he takes the most threes for sure at 8.5 a game. And Kevin Love is right behind him on scoring. He's the best rebounder of the bunch at 12.4 per 36 minutes. So he would help the Suns in rebounding, and his defense is not that bad. I mean, Cleveland has a terrible defense, and Kevin Love is about even on plus minus net rating, offense and defense. So that's pretty good actually. Sharch and Frank are worse players. They just are, but not that much worse. Frank still averages 17.6 and 8 rebounds per 36 minutes, and Dario 14 and 9 per 36 minutes. So these guys are not like night and day. Incomparable to each other. They are not that different. Dario just gets you a lot better 3-point shooting, a little bit more flashy and exciting watching. And Kevin Love gives you more rebounding and good 3-point shooting as well. They'd be better for sure, but are they $30 million a year better?
Well, the weird thing too is, I mean, Kevin Love and Danilo Gallinari are about a week apart age-wise, so they're exactly the same age. They both have had injury problems in their past, so I guess it comes down to if you make a move for one of these guys and you choose Gallinari over Love, you're saying we think we can get him if he's long term. We can get him at such a significant savings that it makes him that much more palatable than Kevin.
He's
Love.
going to be
like
25 million
60 or something.
Yeah, he's going to be 25 million a year. They're both 31. When you say they're about the same age, yeah, they're both 31. So you're paying guys into their mid 30s, like the Suns did with Tyson Chandler, Jared Dudley. Now all of a sudden you're doing that kind of thing again. I don't really want to do that.
That's why
those guys were also the caliber of player for those guys was not as high, and I guess you could argue to a certain
extent.
Tyson Chandler
was still really good.
It had been a minute since he was good though, and he was always good defensively. He was never good offensively either.
Right.
I think if they trade for Gallinari, it's a rental. I think that's we badly want to get into the playoffs this year, and then they won't spend the kind of money that it'll take to keep him long term, and I'm okay with that.
Why do you give up an asset to trade for Gallo? Then you don't give up an asset,
because
right?
you want to get guys like Devin Booker and Deandre Ayton, playoff experience, and keeping Devin Booker in the mindset of this team will do whatever it takes to get me where we want to go, and then you fill the hole with a guy that you feel better suits your long-term plan in the offseason. You say, hey, we lost a lottery protected first round pick, whatever, you know.
Speaking of Devin Booker, so something we saw against the Lakers, I believe, for a stretch, if I'm remembering correctly, but we certainly saw against shit. Why am I fucking blanking on this? Yeah, it's the Knicks. Thank you. Sorry, I'm tired this morning. Against the Knicks, point book, right? We've been waiting for point book really for a while. We're seeing it. What do you guys think?
We're back to it wears on him. You could see it in that fourth quarter that handling the ball kind of slowed down his offense, which he had been on a tear in that Knicks game. I think if it happens in long stretches, we're going to see very much what we saw in previous years. It hurts his efficiency and his effectiveness on the offensive end because he has to carry too much of the load. And I think it impacts him on the defensive end. He's had a lot of great effort defensively this year, but if you put him as the primary ball handler, it's going to expend so much energy, it's going to hurt him on that side too.
Even
the Suns
small stretches, though?
Yeah, I think so. I know what you're saying, Tim, and people love the idea of this and they want it to work. In practice, it does wear on Devin Booker too much. And that's why Monty has tried not to do it this year. And when he does do it, even in short spurts, like you're saying, it still looks painful. Devin can do it. It's just not good for him, and he's not the best player he can be. He had 32 points by the end of the third quarter, and he only had 6 in the fourth. When the Suns, needed all that big push, they got it from other guys, and Devin was distracted by playing a little bit of point guard. Monty's problem is that none of these backup guards are taking hold of it. He was asked about that as well, and about which would he like to settle on a backup point guard? He's like, sure, I would. I'm trying to watch my words here, not to be disrespectful to anybody, but nobody has actually seized this opportunity when given the chance. So he needs someone to step up, or the Suns will have to make a trade to acquire a veteran backup guard if they really think they're going to make a playoff push. That'll be the sign. The Suns are in this to make a playoff push this year, is if they acquire a veteran backup guard. And there are some that will become available that'd be interesting. You could just swap Jeff Teague for Tyler Johnson right now, and there you'd have your backup guard that can score a little bit.
Manny C in the YouTube chat, I have to disagree with him. He said Ty Jerome didn't get too much of a chance. I would argue that Ty Jerome got too much of a chance.
Way too much.
I think he got too much of a chance.
We and Monty saw everything they need to see of him, and that's not speaking ill
this year. He's going to be good, but he needs a year. Like Elliot Kobo, like he looks good in some spurts and then he looks really bad in other spurts. And Monty clearly doesn't trust him Javon Carter, he looks good sometimes defensively, but then he commits fouls or he pisses out guys off, and then they start like Dame Lillard. Part of the reason he made all those threes against the Suns on Monday was because Javon Carter pissed him off, and then Lillard started baiting him, and that just all of a sudden Javon was not good, and then offensively Javon is not good with the ball. So there's it's tough right now. It's tough for Monty to get consistent play, and we get to laugh about this because these were the starting guard caliber guys a year ago because the Suns didn't have a Ricky Rubio. So, let's all be happy.
No, hey, the point guard play with Ricky Rubio on the floor is a breath of fresh air. It is such vastly improved, and I understand the need for point book right now because the backup point guards just aren't getting it done. But to Dave's point, if you are serious about trying to make the playoffs, you need to find a veteran who can fill that role because you're not going to be able to accomplish it with Devin Booker playing stretches as the point guard. You're not going to be able to do it because you need Devin Booker's offense as much as any other year. You need it now more than ever, and you can't have that efficiency dip because one of the best parts of Devin's game this year is how efficient he's been, how well he is shooting, and if you hurt that number, it's going to hurt your team offensively.
Hell, man, I'd take a Chris Dunn out of Chicago as a backup point guard. I agree with you, Espo, that as a backup point guard, I'd take him for sure. I agree with you that they need a quote unquote veteran backup point guard. I don't think necessarily though that they only need a veteran point guard. There are options. But and then it also makes me wonder too with, we've talked so much about this whole power forward. We spent a lot of time talking about Saric, his minutes dwindling, Frank not working out. Now there might be some possibility of Deandre Ayton being able to play significant minutes at the 4, as well as obviously have Mikal Bridges. It does look like Monty likes to play some of those lineups a little bit, but backup point guard. Or even just a backup shooting guard that can handle the ball and make plays. It could be so valuable to this team because when you take Devin Booker out, I mean, there's not, and you can say these other guys play these other positions. They don't. They are not shooting guards. The Suns do not have a backup shooting guard for Devin Booker either, and they also don't have a good backup point guard, obviously.
Is there a way we can get Point Bender back? Do we remember that experiment? No, you're right though, Tim. You can look at either of those guard positions and find somebody that could really help this team and fill in a hole. I still think you need a backup big man, or depending on how it falls out, a starting power forward. However you want to look at that, but yes, this backup guard position is probably the bigger hole right now, especially Ricky has shown that he can get injured. So if you do not have somebody that can slide into that starting point guard spot in a pinch, you're going to see this team regress again. So you need to fill that if you're serious about staying in this race, regardless of what your record is. You're a half a game back of that final playoff spot. So you need to make decisions in the next month as to what you really want to be and what you need to get there. And that backup guard spot is a glaring hole right now.
Yeah, when Ricky Rubio almost hurt his hip on Wednesday night against the Lakers in those final minutes, that could have just tanked the entire season right there if Rubio had missed any good time because the backup guards have been so bad. And Monty Williams even, I think it was Gina Mazzell with The Athletic who mentioned, it looks like you dodged a bullet with Rubio. And he's like, dodged a grenade, because that would have just killed the entire season. The Suns really need Ricky Rubio out there. Whether he's playing well or not, he's still a good floor general. And some games he's playing incredibly well. And some games he's not, but he's still keeping the guys in the right spots and executing the offense really well. So the Suns hum when he's out there and they don't hum when he's not.
By the way, I'm gonna expedite the Dunc-y award because it has to do with Ricky Rubio this week, and it's not on Twitter this week that we're giving the Dunc-y award. We're giving it to whatever idiot ball boy in LA didn't wipe the floor where Ricky Rubio slipped. You could have cost the Suns their entire opportunity to make the playoffs here, and I loved it. Everybody thought that Ricky was arguing that there was a foul on the play. I think he was yelling that there was a wet spot on the floor that they didn't take care of when you go back and look, because nobody touches him, but there's obviously something on the floor that caused him to slip. So Lakers ball boys, enjoy your Dunc-y award, you haters.
Yeah, and then some people were saying that that's the third player in a week that has slipped on some unwiped sweat off the floor on the Lakers' home floor.
Iverson Vlogs on the YouTube chat. He just said, "Why do I want the Suns to get Malik Beasley so much?" It's intriguing.
He would actually be interesting. Denver is not going to give the Suns a good player, but Denver does have a lot of players the Suns could use for sure. And Malik Beasley is one of them. I'd love that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, if we could just pick anybody, sure, that'd be great. If you
need
a willing participant,
a divestition draft of a couple of Denver guys who they have too many wings for sure, and they're not giving Michael Porter Jr. enough time. So let's just take Malik Beasley off the hands. I'm good.
Sure. Whatever you don't want.
I mean, I'd settle for Will Barton.
Hey, okay. A serious.
We'll go garage sale at Denver. All
right. There has been some chatter. I don't know how real it is. I actually think that this was brought up on the Low Post, and then all of a sudden it became a rumor. Maybe it became a rumor because somebody was listening to Low Post and actually said, "Hey, that actually wouldn't be a terrible idea. Maybe we should think about doing this." Long story short, the Clippers, what would you guys think about a trade of Zubac for Aron Baynes, with the caveat that obviously Zubac is not the player that Aron Baynes is, but the Suns would then have their backup center position locked in for 4 years at $8 million a year?
No. And let me tell you why. Not because Baynes is that much of a better player, because he's not. Zubac is pretty good as well in that role. The problem is Zubac is just basically a Deandre Ayton in terms of awareness and how to play and what kind of defense, where to be. The Suns won't stop talking about how great Aron Baynes is as being the captain of the defense. Yeah. And the Suns are 19th in defense this year, which isn't any great shakes, but they've been doing it with Frank Kaminsky getting a lot of minutes at center behind Aron Baynes. Not because of Aron Baynes, but because Aron Baynes is the one who's got him up as high as 19th. With Frank Kaminsky being the other center for a month or 2 months, actually. So, no, I think the Suns need Aron Baynes at least the rest of this year. They need Aron Baynes, and I really like him talking and getting people in the right spots and holding people accountable. I don't want them trading Aron Baynes for another young backup who isn't going to help DeAndre Ayton get better and isn't going to make themselves any better or the guys around them any better, because they're out there just trying to poach their shots too. I mean, the Suns already have Sheck Diallo and Frank Kaminsky and guys like that who are just out there filling up minutes when they get out there, but they're not leading anything. Aron Baynes leads stuff. So we need Aron Baynes in the minutes he plays. And I don't want any changes to be made this season. None.
I agree. If Kelly Oubre is the spirit animal of the offense, that's Baynes on defense. And you don't want to mess with what, as fragile as this chemistry is and how important we know that is with a team. You don't want to mess with it by taking that major piece in Aron Baynes and taking it out. I think I mentioned this earlier on another episode of the show, but it would remind me very much of letting Channing Frye walk after that 48-win season. You're just not valuing the communication, that what he does in the locker room, what he adds to the team, and just letting them go. I think that would be a mistake, a major mistake to do that. I don't think there'd be any reason to make that kind of trade unless James Jones has a bet on the Clippers to win the Western Conference.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. So we just killed that whole thing. Tim, what do you think? Tim,
I don't know. I think it's the concept of getting a solid backup center for the next 3 seasons following this one. for a guy that you might not either be able to afford to re-sign, might not want to choose to re-sign. You do have the opportunity to re-sign him, but Baynes is what, 34 years old. Although
32.
I mean, I completely agree that Baynes is worth a lot more. But I think it's interesting if you can get a long-term backup center who can start if needed. Is interesting.
I
I
think
don't
the
know.
Suns could.
I'm glad
I
I
would
didn't have
rather
to make
give
this decision.
Baynes 2 years, $20 million, just to stay, than Zubats for, was it $7.5 million he makes for each year for the next 3 years. I'd rather give 10 a year for the next 2 and make it a team option on year 2, but give him all the money a year that he wants. And I think that would be an excellent way to keep him as the backup center for a couple of years. And then he's got a team that really wants and values his contributions, and he likes that. And so I think that would be the way to go for a backup center for the next couple of years. And then you figure out the young backup after Ayton has established himself fully.
Well, and if he's going to wind up being power forward, like there's so many question marks.
I don't think long-term Ayton's going to end up being the power forward. I think long-term Ayton is a stretch center. He's just got to unlock that ability about himself. I mean, you've got Nikola Jokic is averaging 4 threes a game, and he's a traditional center, but he's a stretch center, and he's a new age center. People are calling Nikola Jokic, who looks exactly like a Middle Eastern big center guy from the 90s. He plays modern basketball, and Ayton is going to end up being the stretch center with a stretch 4 next to him. And that's the way it's going to be down the road. And Aron Baynes is going to be the guy who just makes sure everybody's in the right spot.
I just wonder if he's going to be like Amari, who never really wanted to be a center, always wanted to be a quote unquote power forward, even though he was playing the center position. You know, it's just the weird things that players get in their head. By the way, Jim Rose in the chat, our friend, says Kaminsky Cove had a big flood and now there is nothing left but rotting fish. Nope, I'm still there with my floaties on, Jim. So if you guys would like reduced rates on some great real estate in Kaminsky Cove, call me up. We got plenty of lots left.
How far away from this is Bender Island? I mean, man, you've got a lot of swampland you're trying to sell.
Hey, I proudly hear they're now boat docks. You want to dock your boat somewhere? Kaminsky Cove. We got plenty of water property for you. Boathouse, we got you covered. Dinghy, we got you covered. You know, whatever you got, we got you covered in Kaminsky Cove. So Jim, come on out. We know you got the cash to buy a spot.
All right, guys. So coming up on an hour, anything left you want to talk about?
So I think Deandre. Sorry, not Deandre Ayton. All right, let's change topic for a little bit. I want to thank everybody who donated their money, their hard-earned money to Brightside Night. We have a record 4,248 tickets donated. This is almost 1,000 more than last year, which was almost 1,000 more than the year before. This is really great. I really appreciate everybody's contributions, and I really appreciate the Suns for matching contributions this year as well. So between the Suns matching and our fan donations, we're at 4,248 tickets being given out to this coming Tuesday's Suns-Kings game. We're going to get some recognition before the game on court. The kids are going to be invited to come down near courtside, in the lower 101 section to watch players warm up before the game. It's going to be fun. We've got T-shirts we're giving out to the kids, and it's just going to be a really, really great time. We also have a special pregame interview with James Jones for me and the biggest donors to come in and talk to James Jones and ask him some questions about this. What does he think about Deandre Ayton starting at the 4? What does he think about all the developments? And does he want to get a veteran backup point guard? Things like that. We'll be able to ask all those questions to James Jones on Tuesday night. Tuesday night is a big night. Brightside Night 2020. 4,200 kids up in that upper deck are going to be thanks to you guys' donations and the Suns matching. Thank you very much, everyone.
Congratulations, Dave. That's huge. I'm very proud of. I know I give you a lot of crap, but I'm very proud of what you accomplished there for the kids and showing the heart of this Suns fan base. As much as Suns Twitter can want to beat the crap out of each other, it shows that there's a heart with these fans that is very large and very willing to to offer those in need some fun. So congratulations, David. Can you do me a favor in the James Jones pregame question and answer session? Can you ask where he keeps all those championship rings? I've always wondered where these guys that win multiple rings, what they do with them, because they're not wearing them around constantly. So
you should go to the game.
I'll see if I can come
I'll get
out.
I'll get you into that pregame interview. If
You're going to
going,
sneak
you can ask
me
him
in.
yourself.
Nice. I'll ask James myself. Sun security may stop me after listening to the numerous podcasts.
I'll bodyguard you.
All right. Well, yeah, but congratulations, Dave. Very, very impressive effort, and I appreciate it. And to Manny C in the chat, no, I am not high all the time. We just do this show so early that I am exhausted. That's just what my eyes look like. So...
Oh, Jesus. All right, guys. Well, happy Saturday. We'll be back on Wednesday. Maybe. I don't really know if we're doing Wednesday episodes anymore, but I guess we'll find out.
I think we'll get back.
Well, the last two Wednesdays have been holidays.
Yeah, and I think we skipped the one before that, too.
Okay. We'll get back on the horse here.
Hey, December's a tough month, all right? We'll get back to it.
We'll make it our New Year's resolution to start doing these Wednesday episodes again.
Yeah,
no, it was fun, though. We appreciate everybody that joins in and watches us live on YouTube, that subscribes on the podcast. It's a supporter of the show by hitting that support the show button, that donated to Brightside Night. But we will be back, it sounds like, on Wednesday at 7 o'clock Arizona time.
And just remember, I may look high, but Tim actually is high. Good night, everybody.
I'm not.